silly Caucasian girl who likes to play with samurai swords. You might not be able to fight like a samurai, but you can at least die like a samurai. If you're noticing what I was just spraying there, that was actually some sage spray, some oil that I've mixed together. I think I'm gonna fucking need it for this one. I've got a strong drink. Yes, I like to drink while I like to talk. It is my first one, and I feel like it. This one's gonna be dark, guys. I'm not gonna fuck around with this one. So I think I'm just gonna clap my hands 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And we are just gonna get this show on the road. If you've clicked on this thumbnail that I've made, it is the dark side of Virgo, or a dark-sided Virgo. So before I get into this, please, Virgos out there, if this is your sign and you've been waiting your turn, firstly, thank you for checking out my channel. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you found this video insightful. Please feel free to leave your comments below. But please, no hate mail, no death threats, okay? This is for shadow work purposes. We are only looking at the sun signs. We're not looking at all the different parts of your chart and all of your natal and everything like that. We're not doing that. We're just keeping it really basic. So it's a very intimate look at the dark sides, the shadow side of your sign. And yeah, I think, it goes without saying this is what it is. So pre-warning, this may be sexual, this may have swearing, it may have some illicit, whatever references. That's what it is. So if you're not up for the real shit today, Virgo, then probably best to click away. So pre-warning, disclaimer, and it is what it is. But most signs really would just kind of look at this series or look at these videos that I'm doing and be like, well, it's cool, just give me some shit, give me some crap, whatever. Just have a laugh, take it with a pinch of salt and move on. But no, not you, Virgo. You are not going to like this video. Anything to do with the projection of you that's seen in a different point of view that you can't control is going to probably send you into some kind of existential crisis. I mean, just touching your hair when it's all perfect could send you into some kind of fucking meltdown. So, yeah. Now, let's say this without getting too dark. With you guys, Virgos, you are so hypercritical. And I'll say this up front. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to be mean to you. I personally don't have really any Virgos in my life at the moment. I had some, in past years, but at the moment I have none. I don't think I'm a vibrational match personally to Virgo in general. I'm more of the opposite. I'm kind of more of the Piscean energy, I guess, which is the opposite of your chart, or the opposite of Virgo. But no one can hate a Virgo or hurt a Virgo as much as Virgo deeply hates themselves. A dark-sided Virgo is in a constant state of self-hate. And I mean hatred. I mean, these guys beat themselves up. They hurt themselves to the extreme. And an often saying that I would hear with a Virgo would be, I'm a recovering perfectionist. That's something that I really hear a lot coming from Virgos. Or something like, they'll post something on their Instagram or Facebook like, I am enough. They're trying to, what that really is, if it's a dark Virgo, they're just trying to convince you to try and convince them of what they're trying to say. And that's really kind of the truth about the dark side of them. It's always about trying to control how you see them. And that's what they like. Now, Virgos, if you are dark and you've been hiding from yourself, I'm going to be taking a peek at the parts of you that you don't like to be seen, and the parts of you that you maybe, don't know, maybe, tongue-tied, maybe you understand and maybe you don't understand. But you guys, for the most part, are very self-aware. You're a very self-aware sign. So I'm trying to think of things that I can bring up to you in your shadow side that others may not know about you, or that you may not know about you. And that's where I'm trying to go with the expression of this video. So there are 3 videos in the series that I was worried about. Not worried about, but I know that wouldn't take these videos well. 1, Pisces, 2, Aquarius, 3, Gemini. Because there's such complicated signs. And at the start, I thought I may even have to do this video in a 2-part series, because There's just so much to cover. I think I may even have to do that with Gemini or Aquarius because there's just so much to say. Or I'll go on and do other videos that, other series that can kind of uncover more or talk about your sign more. So yeah, it can't hurt you if it's not true. Now, let's get a sip of the drink. Virgos, when I think of Virgo, I think of a very sharp knife. I think of the movie American Psycho. I think of that 90s film that came out with Christian Bale, how he is a total psychotic narcissist. And Virgo tend to live on the edge of the knife. They like to live right in between the verge of passing out from their eating disorders or on the verge of collapse from their workout at the gym. They like to be shredded. A dark Virgo, yet again, dark Virgos in a really sick one would probably want to even get a knife and cut the fat off their own body just so they could stay shredded. These guys calorie count. These guys have to get on the scales. These guys are in a constant struggle and battle with their own sense of self-concept. They're in a constant battle with their own idolized version of what they want to be, but not really who they are. So Virgos can run marathons, swim miles, go very far physically in endurance states for long periods of time. They're very disciplined, the Virgo, pushing their limits on the smell of an oily rag. These guys can just get so much done on such little fuel. It's unbelievable. When I think of Virgo, I think of 10 out of 10. I think of a gymnast that does backflips, somersaults, twists and turns, that has been training since they were a child. I think of perfection. I think of the perfectionist. I think of a really strict coach. Virgos can make very, very tough coaches. They're very much about dedication, and the slightest millimeter out, you will be punished for it. Virgos pull their affection away to punish you, and no one can do this better than Virgo. They just do. So I think of a really perfect body. I think of getting up. Virgo would get upset if they can't count those six pack. They've got to see their ribs sticking out. They've got to see their collarbone sticking out. Virgos want to look at their face and just see chiseled perfection, or they gravitate, if they can't achieve it in themselves, they gravitate towards things that can idolize their own sense of self-perfection, particularly with partners. Virgos go for partners that can help them grow and expand and evolve, but also to integrate traits that their partner has that they don't have, that they want more of. So that's very Virgo. The dark side of Virgo is very much about service and repenting. So if they're religious, if you're a Virgo and you're religious, or if you know someone who is a Virgo and they're religious, they're very strict with their discipline, of their praying, of their time that they go to church, and they may whip themselves, they may cut themselves. These guys are cutters. They have to control everything around their environment. A dark-sided Virgo has to control everyone around them. They are masters of manipulation, and they're super intelligent as well. Virgos are not a dumb sign. They are very self-aware. And with Virgo shares the same planet as Gemini. So Virgo has the power of inner reflection, where it's like a mirror facing a mirror, and it projects itself back into itself, and it funnels its energy inwards. Think of the Hermit card in the tarot, and you see Gemini is the opposite of that, and they also sharing that same communication, because Virgo is very good at communicator as well, just as Gemini is, but Gemini funnels their energy outwards into like a rainbow into the world. So Gemini is a mirror to the external world, and they mirror everyone back to them. Like a common thing that a Gemini would feel is that they're a mirror to everyone else around them. And the Virgo is about self-reflection and pouring energy, and kind of like a winter time. Virgo is more of a winter sign. I don't see a lot of Virgos loving winter. They like that hermit energy, where they kind of go inside of themselves to rebuild and to work on their sense of self-perfection and question themselves. And now Virgo, when it comes to a Virgo, no one worships a Virgo more than a Virgo. Virgos worship themselves. They are not Generally in competitions, these guys tend to finish last. They're not winners. Virgos are not winners, and they are not leaders. Generally, a Virgo is sitting in the back watching everyone. Virgos tend to finish last, and that doesn't really bother a Virgo so much because Virgo's kind of running their own race. And with the Virgo, they are kind of achieving a PB or a personal best. They don't want to come first because they're kind of in their own lane doing their own thing. And I actually really respect that, particularly when a Virgo is working out. They don't want to be interrupted. Never interrupt a Virgo while they're in their zone. You just leave them and let them do their thing. They don't want your opinion. They don't really ask for your opinion, but secretly, I think that they do. Virgo is constantly chasing something that doesn't exist. They are constantly trying to go higher, push it further, take it more within themselves. Virgo can be materialistic, but they're always trying to outdo themselves. And when I think of the dark side of Virgo, I think of like how toxic the fashion industry is, where it's always trying to, like a new season of something is kind of coming in and replacing an old season of something. So it's always getting constantly updated, constantly upgraded. Virgo, a really good case study for Virgo would be Miranda Priestley from the film The Devil Wears Prada. That is totally a Virgo. Everyone, she was terrifying. She ruled through fear. Virgo rules through fear and terror. Terror of finding a fault on you, or looking at something that could be off in you. So when you're around a Virgo and you're trying to impress a Virgo, you better be on your A game, because they are going to be looking for your A game. They don't want to see you half-assing it. You have to share the same level of enthusiasm that they have for their job and their work and their passion as you do. And if you don't, they'll fuck you off. Virgos can cut you off. They can cut you like a Scorpio can. They will let you go and they'll never think of anything. They'll never think of you again. Virgo, like I said, with the upgrading, it's like technology. Some types of Virgos really like technology, like Gemini does. So they might have different screens all kind of going at one time. And they're always, so when a new program comes in, that overrides the old program. So they see the old version of them as obsolete. It's no longer needed, it's gone, and the new one's replacing it. So everything in a Virgo's world is replaceable and will be upgraded at some stage. They're obsessed with expansion. Virgos share that same kind of energy that Sagittarius does, where it's always about overriding old paradigms and pushing further and further into expansion and striving for their version of perfection. And I'll get onto that a little bit further. But when it comes to the physical traits of a Virgo, much like I think we talked about Taurus having the really strong, thick bull neck, Virgos are very, they look like a doll. And I think a lot of them want to aspire to be a doll, or they aspire to be like a model. Claudia Schiffer was a Virgo. It's kind of like that perfect 10 kind of thing that really wants everyone to pay attention to it, but it doesn't want to be loud and boisterous. Virgos are not very much like the center of attention like a Leo is. They just want to be in the room as the beautiful Adonis, and you just kind of go, wow, look at him, he's so beautiful. That is very Virgo. They are very androgynous looking, so Virgos tend to be very femme. They have a lot of the Binah energy from the Kabbalah in them naturally. When the fractal of Source came down to express itself, it came down to have the human experience, and it kind of imprinted itself into the archetype of Virgo, astrologically, DNA-wise. They are very kind of like, you've got to do a double take with some of these Virgos and like, whoa, is that a boy or is that a girl? I don't know. But they tend to be a lot like that. When I think of that, I think of an example I could give you, which would be Brian McAvoy. I think that's his name, I think that's his name, from the band Placebo. If you know the band Placebo, then you may know that he is very androgynous looking. I think he may be a Virgo, I'm not sure, but he tends to kind of encapsulate a lot of that Virgo energy. Very heavy kind of goth makeup, or very sharp edging with what he says, like his words can cut. His songs are very deep and powerful. Virgos are attracted to depth. This is an intellectual sign, so if you want to have a connection with a Virgo, you have to be mentally smart. Now, with Virgo comes in two types. One is very similar to the Aquarius, where one is like mentally a child and unaware of their own behavior. and they'll be like, they'll work in retail, or they'll do something very simple minded, I guess. Not that I'm saying working in retail makes you simple minded. They gravitate towards things where they don't have to think too much. Someone else does it for them or tells them what to do. So they follow things, like a soldier in an army. There you go, an army. That would be a perfect example of a Virgo. Virgo is that military thing, that like a lieutenant or something, but they tend to be like in a situation. That first type of Virgo tends to be very much told what to do. Second type is a creative Virgo, and the creative Virgo, much like the creative Aquarian, is tortured as hell. Think of like Van Gogh. Think of like cutting his ear off and living in his pain, and you don't understand my pain kind of thing. And the Virgo artist or creator, I don't come across too many Virgos that are actually artists like myself. I come across Virgos that tend to piggyback off someone else's work, or they tend to, like a DJ might call themselves an artist, but really they're not creating music. They're just taking someone else's work and then distorting that work or that music. They didn't write the song, they're just playing someone else's song, and they're playing in the order that the song is, or they're kind of mixing with things. So I see that a little bit with Virgo, that other side of the Virgo artist. Now, if you are a Virgo artist and you're watching this, first of all, I take my hat off to you, because it must be difficult, because everything that you do is scrutinized. Everything that you create is pulled apart. Like I'm sure you'd have days where it's working, and then other days where it's not working, and you feel like, why do I do this to myself? Oh, fuck, I can't, I'm a failure, that kind of thing. And they take things very much to heart. So I'm trying to get to the truth in this video about a dark-sided Virgo, but I don't want to break your heart either. But at the same time, this video is what it is. Now, some things about Virgo. Virgos hate wasting time. They hate fucking around. They have anything that isn't in vibrational match to them moving, they don't like that. Virgos move slow, probably not as slow as a Taurus. They do move slow on things. Virgo understands that quality does take time, so they chip away at it. They're the ones that show up on time. Virgos do the work. They'll get in the gym and they'll do the work if they're motivated. And that's what I talked about before in one of my other videos. The profit motive is you have to feel motivated of gain of something to do something. So when a Virgo is chasing something and they're starting to see results, and the results in the gym are paying off, Virgo turns it up a notch. They turn it up, turn it up, right up, and they go further into it. Virgos in their heart kind of believe that it is their role to create structure in chaos. And without structure, without rules, there would be chaos. So that's how they kind of tend to see it. So that's why they're always trying to control their external environment, because internally they feel, most of them, dark-sided Virgo is very insecure, very questioning of themselves. They need constant reassurance from everyone around them. In a relationship, a dark Virgo can be a real pain in the ass. These guys are typical Debbie Downers. If you know a Virgo, you probably know that already. They're always looking for a way to undermine someone, or tell someone how worthless the other person is, or kind of throw other people off the scent of their trail if they're up to mischief, or they're trying to deconstruct someone else intellectually, because the Virgo mind is very much about deconstruction of others, to assert their opinions as truth to other people. That's a big part of the dark Virgo. Virgos, now, very, very secretive, and I want to make that very clear. Virgos may look like they have everything together on the outside, but inside they could be absolutely just hanging by a thread. These guys tend to lock things away and carefully unpack them again later. They'll have an experience. It could be their first kiss or their first date, and they will savor that moment and then come back and relive it and replay it again and again and again. They may even masturbate or have a wank to, something that they might have turned them on, and they'll replay that in their mind. Virgos have a very sharp mind, by the way, and they have a very good memory. Virgos are very good with memory as well, although their memory does start to become decrepit and break down in decay, like a Gemini's brain does a little bit. They're not as sharp as they are in their later years as they were in their younger years. But back to that secretive thing, Virgos will, I've noticed this about Virgo actually, they will have if it's a kid Virgo, they'll have a box under their bed, and it might be like really tucked away and hidden in the wardrobe or something. It's hidden out of sight from other people. And inside that box, it is like cuttings of scraps of magazine clips, or it could be photographs of people, celebrities, anything that Virgo sees as what they wish to be. Virgo, like, they love that. They'll be like collecting bits of like their idolization of what perfection is what Virgo will be collecting and looking at it and trying to use it as like a vision board to try and like base their projection off what their version of projection is through all of these images. Virgos are very, very visual. And they're restless as well in the mind. So a lot of Virgos don't sleep well. And they like their house naturally darker. A lot of Virgos, the house has to be nice and cool in summertime, and they like little cracks of light might come through the curtain in a Virgo's house. They are neat freaks and control freaks, unless they're the other type of Virgo, like I mentioned before, where they just, they may know where everything is, but it just looks like a fucking dog's breakfast. Like, that's how their house will be. Now, a weak Virgo mind is very much a warrior. These guys worry about everything. Excuse me. They will overthink everything to the point where they'll get themselves all wound up and even physically sick, to the point where like everything that could go wrong with their kids, everything that could go wrong with their husband could have a car crash day on the home from work, like what if this doesn't work out? Well, I've got to have a plan B. They are very worried, like all the time worried. Virgo is very fearful of anything that could go wrong. So they're constantly measuring and quantifying everything around them. And that goes without saying, Virgos are measurers of everything. So, and when I say that, I mean like scientifically measuring things. A lot of them make very good scientists, or they work in some kind of study program or research where they're researching about a new trial for some kind of vaccine or a new, generally they work around medical stuff, but I think I'll get onto that a little bit later in the video. Now, Virgos are very multi-talented and at multitasking, much like the Gemini. They can do many things at one time, so lots of balls up in the air juggling, and they will not drop a single one. When I think of Virgo, I think of like a Cirque du Soleil performer. They're very ripped, shredded, very dedicated to their craft, and they like to find people that also share that same passion and seriousness for the work or the job that they're doing. So if they are in the fitness and health industry, which a lot of Virgos are, because Virgos, the dark Virgo is narcissistic as hell, they can just look at themselves all day in the mirror at the gym. Even when they've got a client, they'll still look at themselves in the mirror. I had a personal trainer that was very much like that, and she was always looking at herself in the mirror, trying to look. She spent more time looking at herself in the mirror than she was looking at me with my technique. Oh, and Virgos are very big on technique with everything, and a lot of Virgos end up as dentists, doctors, surgeons, anything that involves like dental hygiene. A lot of Virgos are big on that as well, and they can be quite robotic as well. We'll get on with that, because Virgos like to intellectualize emotion. They tend to do that a lot. So they have to have constant occupancy of the brain. So much like Gemini, Virgo is a walking, talking computer, or like encyclopedia in their mind. And like I said, they might look cold as hell, but they'll have something going on in the brain. They're always assessing, analyzing, processing. Virgo's always quantifying everything, measuring things. How much energy you put into the relationship is generally what Virgo gives you back. Now, Virgo's big challenge with a dark Virgo is coming to terms with their ego. And ego is its own, everyone has one. When I hear things like, the death of the ego, that is impossible. You cannot separate ego. You are your ego. Ego is you. Your ego is your own sense of self-concept. And that's the container that we're in. We all have one. We can't separate from that. We can never ignore that. It's part of who we are. All we can do is be aware of it, like shadow work, and then work on the parts of it that we think need modifying or need to be changed or upgraded or overlooked. And that will go back to the behavior or back to our morals. Now, Virgos can brush things off, but generally deep down it could mortally wound them. And they really kind of for the most part are addicted to the struggle of life. Virgo in general kind of, I don't really think a lot of Virgos deep down really know how to be happy or even want to be happy. They kind of love misery. And I think of that song that was written by the band Garbage. Shirley Manson, by the way, is a Virgo, and she wrote this song. So this is a perfect example. It's I'm only happy when it's raining. Oh no, I'm only happy when it rains. Like, that's Virgo. I'm only happy when it's complicated. And then she says in the song, pour your misery down on me. Like, that's Virgo. Virgos, I feel, for the most part, a dark Virgo really just wants to be sad. And a dark Virgo woman that's been burned by a man or burned by someone she once loved can be such a spiteful, hateful bitch. Very nasty. And Virgos have a really overindulgent, not overindulgent, they have a very over-the-top view of what their parents were supposed to do for them. So if a Virgo kid grows up and they don't feel that in their eyes their parent did the most for them or did as much as their parent should have done, they'll hate their parent. And they may even take that out on their future kids as well. Because at the end of the day, we're all kind of hurt people hurting people. Like, only hurt people hurt people. And if a Virgo's hurt, they can do a lot of damage to other people as well. That's that whole thing. Like, no, what do you hate? What do I hate? Oh, what do we hate in common? Like, that's Virgo. They like to get into the negative side of things. This is a negative sign. It's not a positive, happy-go-lucky Sagittarius sign. So that kind of tends to be how they are. As parents, they are tiger parents at school. And the overbearing, really, I think a lot of Virgo parents can just like never let their own kids' immune system ever develop because they're just so big on giving them medication or keeping them out of going outside. They could get sick. Like, yet again, that over-worrying, fearful side. A dark Virgo really kind of wraps her kids in cotton wool and just doesn't let them just be a fucking kid. Yet again, controlling. Can't say it enough. Now, Virgos like to very much control how you perceive them. They don't like things that are outside of their control. So that's part of if you're a Virgo watching this and you're not being triggered by this video, you already know that. Like, fuck, you know that, guys. So one of the things that you probably would do in your family home, if you're still friends with your family, a lot of Virgo women cut their parents out at a young age as well. That's very common. I see Virgos just cutting their parents off, don't want to talk to their parents, and they'll just live like that. They don't want anything to do with their parents, particularly their mother. A Virgo woman will do that. But what if they were to go back into the family home and see like pictures of them from like growing up with the hose outside in the garden or bouncing on the trampoline, or it could be a Virgo looking at a photo of them that was taken when they were at school. Virgo kids are always very sick. Usually, I'll get onto that later, but Virgo would look at those pictures and be like, oh, I don't want anyone to see those pictures of me. How embarrassing. Virgos hate being embarrassed. So they just want you to see the version of them that they are now, not the version of who they were back as they were in their developmental stages. Because when we grow up and we're kids, we kind of go through this kind of, like anything, like a painting, we go through this kind of ugly, messy, ugly stage where we're all kind of weird looking, gangly, big teeth, whatever. And then as we get older, we mature and grow into who we're supposed to be. But Virgo doesn't want you to see that. They just want you to see the version that they are now. So that's a big thing that Virgo do. Now, Virgos hate aging. Not as much as Leo, but they really hate aging. So they have all the pills and potions. They're very strict with their regimented diet and routine and all of their stuff like that. I often think of a Virgo woman can be quite heavy on the makeup. Taurus doesn't really like heavy makeup. They like more of a natural look, or a Taurus person generally is attracted to more of a natural looking person. But Virgo can really put on that makeup way too heavy. They can look like a doll. And I don't mean like in a good way. I mean like Chucky doll. That can be a dark side of a Virgo, the Chucky doll. Much like Gemini, which we'll get on, because I call Geminis the Chucky dolls. So, in a Virgo's mind, they have to be perfect. Can't say it enough. They have a lot of mental health issues, underlining problems. and not like borderline mood disorders like Gemini does. Virgos have this thing that, because they're in a struggle with themselves, they're in a fight with themselves. They'll stand and look in the mirror, and to someone else they look fine, you look great, but no, Virgo's like, no, this is wrong. I've got to get this changed. I've got to lose some weight here. I've got to do this. They struggle with their own weight. They struggle with their own body. Virgos are always trying new diets. They're always trying new ways of weight loss, or anything to do with a form of change in their own body. Virgos are doing that. I've never come across a Virgo that hasn't suffered with some level of bulimia, anorexia. They're really any type of OCD kind of stuff. That's all those type of disorders, very much a Virgo thing. It's kind of embedded in who they are. They just have to learn to fucking love themselves. Like, Virgo, just love yourself. Understand that you are not perfect, and only in your imperfection can others really love you too. Get that and get it good. If you're listening to this video, fuck. That was heavy. Yes, and now and I know you're hypersensitive. You're not as hypersensitive as Scorpio, but Virgos can sense the slightest shift of temperature in the room that changes. Virgos are very sensitive to everything. That's why I'm trying to really articulate this video really directly and be as kind and direct as I can. And also with the Scorpio, it's a good thing the Scorpio would tell you this, Virgo, because we don't like to go around stuff. When a Scorpio asks you a question, we are asking you the direct question. We're direct. So we don't want to come around in a roundabout kind of way like a Libra might. We just like, this is it, this is what I want, do it. And I think that Virgo is very similar in that way as well. They like directness, and goes without saying. But yeah, to the outside world, Virgo can appear to be very, very cold. So if you had a Virgo parent that never hugged you or ever loved you, or told you that they never told you that they loved you, really, and never gave you any attention from their heart, right now in this video, from my heart, Virgo, I am sorry that happened to you. It wasn't fair, okay? It wasn't fair. If you're a Virgo and that happened to you and your parents weren't enough, maybe they weren't enough. Maybe they weren't, okay? But you're going to have to learn to either move through it or accept it. You can't change it, and you can't change them if you're a Virgo person. Now, if you had a cold Virgo parent that never told you that they loved you, I love you. And this video comes from a place of love, okay? You are worthy. You do deserve to be here. There is a spot at the table of life for you, okay? So please understand that. I know you might be all fucked up from your childhood, because when Virgo gets a bad childhood, these guys never recover it. And I know that you're a Virgo if you kind of replay things again and again, like on a broken record in your head. It just goes around and around again. So yeah, if you are a Virgo parent and you're watching this, you might think that you're giving your kids enough love. You're not. You need to give them more love. Go give them a hug. Go give them a kiss. You come across in a way that you think other people see you as warm, but they don't. We don't see Virgos as warm. Virgos tend to come across as cold as ice. You guys are like surgeon, doctor, that's how we see you. And that separation, yet again, you try to intellectualize emotion. You've got to get out of that nonsense and let yourself feel what you feel, because you come across as phony and fake as hell when you don't let yourself do that. A Virgo person could walk into an operating theatre and just perform an operation on a human body and just get that scalpel and push it in and cut someone just as easy as they were cutting chicken. That's just how Virgo is. The darker Virgos, that is. They're in secret bunker labs doing experiments on people. Like, Virgo can be that evil. Like, even in a comical way, think of like Dr. Evil or Dr. Blood. Like, I'll get you next time, gadget. Like that kind of thing. But yes, they're obsessed with hygiene. A lot of Virgos are very big on hygiene as well, like germaphobes, big germaphobes, that whole scientific thing. They love wearing gloves. Virgos love white coats. That's a dark Virgo there. If this doesn't apply to you and you don't like wearing gloves and doing weird shit, then that's a good sign. You're probably a light Virgo. But yeah, now when people say, I hear a lot of bullshit where people say, like, with their partners, if they've got a Virgo, like, opposites attract and he balances me out. No, That is nonsense, okay? Opposites do not attract. Only attraction attracts. The only thing out there in the natural world that attracts, if it's not natural or man-made, is a magnet. So let that sink into your head. You have to be a vibrational match to someone in a relationship for them to be to be around you. And yeah, so that's kind of how they tend to be. We've talked about them being very hard on themselves. I don't see a lot of Virgos as like artists. I see them generally as more of an architect, where it's like form follows function with straight lines and stuff like that with rules. Now, Virgos are the ultimate critic. Even now, they're probably critiquing this video, critiquing the way that I'm talking, critiquing, anything they can to deconstruct something else, to assert their opinion over someone else or assert themselves over someone else. Virgos always doing that. But you don't see a lot of Virgos trying to do something for themselves. They tend to always come back, say for example, a school teacher that couldn't go off into the world and be the surgeon. They just couldn't, a person that just couldn't go and be the artist. They couldn't book the jobs. They couldn't have the shows. They weren't successful. Virgo, if it's a Virgo, they'll come back as teacher, where they get to assert themselves over other people as authority, and then they get to still remain in the field that they like as an authority, and then they take that out on the students and make them suffer. That's another thing that the dark side of Virgo can do. So they're usually critiquing other people, but generally they don't really do the work to build or make things themselves. So a lot of Virgos out there will do like videos doing reviews on other people's work, but that's the same. Those that can't do review, that's a big Virgo thing, or a dark side of Virgo. So don't be afraid, Virgo, if you're out there and you're watching the video. Don't be afraid, try it. Don't stop reviewing other people's work, and make your own work and put your work out there. Don't be afraid to take a risk. Don't be afraid to fail. That's how you fail. That's how you learn. You learn by failing. That's the only way. The sooner you fail, the better, really, because then you can start learning. I'll tell you a story about a Virgo girl that I once knew. And she was a swimmer, because I was a swimmer as well. I was an athlete for many years. I was on pool deck swimming. I did backstroke, and it was my whole life for a long time. But when it came to the event side of it, where we were training, she would show up to training, but when it came to the events, just before the event, she would always claim to have a headache or a muscle tear, a calf tear. She's hurt her toe, or she's got a cold. It's always like getting sick right before the game. And what this is something that Virgo does, which I've noticed, where their own inner critic is so terrified of going to the event and not winning, or not doing as well as they think they are, or as well as they think they could do in the race, in the event. So they get off the hook. So they get sick. They come down with a fever. They manifest some kind of thing. And sometimes they do manifest physical illnesses because of this, and sometimes they don't. But there's always something wrong physically with a fucking Virgo. And it's generally self-inflicted as well, because they're so stressed out of their brain. They've broken down their immune system, really. And so, yeah, he who runs away lives to fight another day. So that way she can live, and she'll go on to another event, because she'll get out of the competition element of this event, but then she'll get to go for another one. But you can't keep doing that, Virgo, because what happens is eventually you have to show up for yourself, and you have to step up to the plate, and that's the only way. So stop. If you're doing that and you're guilty of always being sick and showing up, and not showing up and being a no-show, it's cowardly, and you really can do better than that. So that's the thing. Anything to get off the hook, it tends to be always someone else's fault. Virgos in general, particularly the female Virgos, tend to be very, they appear to be very helpless. Poor little me, the poor story, the sob story. It's always, this is what my mum did, this is what my cousins did to me. It's very whiny like that. Cancerians do that shit too. It's just a trick to try and get you to feel sorry for them so they can bring you closer in. That's how they get in, through sympathy. It's another trick, yet again, doesn't work on a Scorpio like myself. It's just completely useless. Like trying to play these silly little mind games with someone like me, it's like pouring water on a Scotch guarded couch. It just runs straight off me. It's completely useless. You won't even It's like, I'm on a completely different level. Like, I'm above this. I can see what you're doing. So Virgos don't like to associate with people they can't trick. A dark Virgo would never align itself with someone that they can't control. Virgos have to be in control, or they have to have given them their control over to someone else. Like going to a restaurant and letting someone else order for them. Virgo may do that. It's like, well, you've been here before. You know what's good. You do it. But that's a rare Virgo, I would say. The heart of a dark Virgo is a coward. And they like to put up facades or play characters of how they want the world to see them, but it's not who they are deep down. And that's one thing I want you to understand. Virgos are always the projection of a character, but it's always contrived. It's not who they are. It's just the parts of them that they want you to see. So Virgos are very big on plastic surgery, always modifying themselves. They'll have lots of like shows like Nip Tuck or Botched or any type of LA stuff. A lot of Virgos would be around LA in that vicinity anyway, because it's like the epicenter hub of like being perfect, being beautiful. They love to create this projection on Instagram or on social media that they're living the perfect life. They've got the perfect husband, the perfect baby room. It's all just an act. They are insecure as hell. In that regard, it's always photoshopped, that very fake looking kind of big boobs, big lips, like big, and I mean ridiculously overdone, like big slug lips, like big lips. That's a Virgo. Now, dark Virgos like to give lots of advice to people on things that they really shouldn't. They give lots of information on how to help other people, improve other people, but they're not really practicing it in their own life. Virgos is full of contradictions. So it's a lot like, if you are flat broke and you're an accountant, then you should not be giving advice to other people on how to manage their money. You've got to do the work first. It's like a great big fat person trying to be a personal trainer. It doesn't work. You have to live by example. And if you're going to live by the sword, then you have to be prepared to die by the sword. You have to practice what you preach, Virgo. And Virgos are very preachy, but it tends to be always reading out someone else's words. So Virgos will post like sayings that someone else wrote. Virgos tend to be poets at heart. They are into poetry, which is a beautiful thing if they write it themselves, not just piggybacking off someone else's idea, Virgo. Use your imagination more. Tap into your opposite sign, which is the Pisces, and I want to hear more of what you have to say, not more of like posting other people's projections. Yeah, that's a big one. So you can't heal someone until you're healed. And I hate it when people go, well, I'm healing myself when I heal someone else. No, you're not. You've got to do the work in yourself. You have to be at a level of healing, be able to stand up and feed you before you can feed someone else. So a lot of you guys out there put yourselves in these positions of servitude to other people because Virgo is the sign of servitude, but it can get out of control. Think of the movie Misery with Kathy Bates. Perfect example of a dark Virgo. She takes him in, but it's like that. They're very connected to Munchausen syndrome, where they're always like, it's like manifested in their head that they're sick, and they're telling everyone they're sick for attention. Or it could be that they'll keep someone in a state of need to them. So they'll get up in a relationship with a recovering alcoholic, and then they will sabotage the alcoholic when he gets better or he or she gets better. That's their way of asserting control over them. So they'll put the temptation of the bottle in front of them, and they'll see the bottle and they'll want to drink it. Or they'll kind of do things to break them down that way. Virgos, you've got to be dependent on them. They love that servitude thing. They're either extreme doms, or they're extreme subs. And when I say extreme, I mean fucking extreme, like live in house slave extreme, like give over your credit card, give over your identity to someone else so someone else can control you. That is a Virgo thing. Their source of power then would come from being the source of adulation of another being using them. That's how they get their power. It's a very sadomasochistic side of Virgo that can be quite dangerous. Now, a really stylish Virgo, because they love fashion. A lot of the dark Virgos love, runways and all that kind of like living off a cup of soup kind of thing. They'd probably love the film, like I mentioned before at the start of the video, they love the film The Devil Wears Prada, which is just, it's a ridiculous film, but they love that. They love that projection of that. Anything that's minimal, Virgos are very cold that way, so they don't tend to be maximalists like a Scorpio can be, or a Taurus can be. They would, if it went to a really cutting edge Virgo designer's house, it would be very cold. It would be like there'd be nothing comfortable to sit on. It would be like sitting on concrete would be their chair kind of thing. That's how they are, and they're very big on hygiene. They always trimming their body, cutting their hair, getting their hair done. A lot of them work in makeup and hair and beauty, getting facials. Virgos love getting haircuts, even if they don't even need one. Virgo is very sensitive to light. A lot of them don't like going out in the sun overly if they have fairer skin, because it could make their skin a bit crazy, burn. If a Virgo was to be a mythical creature, it would probably be not a mythical creature, but like supernatural. They'd be more of a vamp. They'd be a vampire. Now, let's get on to the extra dark parts of the Virgo video. Now, Virgo females, like I said before, can be very spiteful and nasty if they've been wronged. They play dirty. The Virgos don't play fair. Virgos are very methodical, and they will pull you apart at the seams bit by bit by making little comments, little nasty jabs here and there, trying to find all your flaws and all your mistakes. By the way, never tell a Virgo your secrets, because I'll just use it as information against you later. A lot of them are very good in interrogation. They'd be, if they're a kind of a sadist, they'd be good into inflicting pain on you, like putting scorpions on you and shit. Think of like the film Die Another Day with James Bond, where he's being tortured. That crazy looking bitch, she looked like a Virgo, she looked like a real nasty bitch. But yeah, they're very methodical, so they'll deconstruct you. Now, Virgos are not prepared to go to jail for you. They are not doing jail time for you. What they are going to do is they don't want to kill you themselves and get caught. By the way, if a Virgo was a killer, a dark Virgo, they wouldn't be caught. They're too good. They're too methodical. They would smudge their fingerprints. They would trace their, like I said, they're very good at throwing you off the scent, off the trail of all of their, evil doings. They're good like that. But a dark Virgo wouldn't want to kill you. What they would want to do is they want you to kill yourself. So they'll destroy you, intellectually destroy you, and place and plant these things in your head that would make you slowly unravel at the seams, and then they would let you do the job for them. That's what Virgo would do. So if you're out there now, and you're going, oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah, it is. And I've seen it myself. And I've seen this behavior. Everything that I'm saying, I've seen this with the Virgos. I've seen it. So with Virgos, read the fine print. And Virgos love contracts. They're very good at arguing. Now, one of the things that Virgo do, one of the big parts of the Virgo, this is their coping mechanism for life. Deflection, deflection, deflection. It was his fault at all costs, case closed. That's Virgo. Very, very deflective. Rather than focus on their mistakes or their flaws or where they were at that time in an interview, they are going to sidestep the question that you asked them, and they're going to answer the question that you asked them with the question that they wished you'd asked them. I know that's a bit of a head fuck. So they sidestep, I'll say it again. So they sidestep what you've asked them, and then they answer your question with an answer to a question that they wish you'd asked them, like a politician would. They never answer the question directly. Everything's indirectly when it comes to getting off the hook, because they know they're deeply flawed. And this is one of the things that they tend to do. They have to raise themselves higher than others, and they can be a very ruthless villain. Think of a perfect case study example of a Virgo would probably be Hannibal Lecter. He'd be a Virgo, I would say. Yeah, they're not bloodthirsty, but they will commit gruesome crimes against humanity. Genghis Khan was a Virgo, and he ended up killing 60 million people he killed, enslaving people, stuff like that. That's a dark side of a Virgo. A dark Virgo would be a very good drug dealer. They'd never get caught because they're too smart. They'd have people that would take the falls for them. So that's a big part of them. They're very good at embezzling money through computers. Like they're good at, like they're basically an IT engineer. That's a quintessential Virgo there. Virgos don't tend to sweat the small stuff. A more evolved Virgo won't really worry about the small stuff that's inconsequential to them. They're more interested in playing a long-term game. Virgos are not interested in playing a short-term game. So Virgo thing that they might ask themselves, will this matter in years to come? Will this matter next year? And if the answer is no, they'll just let it go. Virgos are good like that. An evolved version of a Virgo is good like that. So that's a big part of the Virgo. Now let's think. I've made some notes here. Just let me get my trusty phone because I have some good notes that I want to bring up about the Virgo. Oh, by the way, Virgos are always on their phone. Now, don't think they're not listening to you. They are. They just, like I said, they're good at multitasking. It's quite rude. I have like a couple of Virgo people around me that are always on their damn phone. Other than they just never stop complaining. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I threw a get-together party for a group of friends, and I had hired a space, and it was a Middle Eastern place, and it was just lovely. Lots of pillows on the floor and like hookahs, and lots of, not hookahs as in hookah, like the pipe that you smoke, hookah. And we were having a good night, and my Virgo friend at the time came, and I had put a lot of effort and money into beer and champagne on arrival, and everyone was having a good time, and she's just such a fucking stress head and a negative pain in the ass, just such a spiteful bitch. And of course, she was just so concerned about the cobweb in the corner of the room. It was just trying to, anything she could to try and tear me down. And because she knew it was a beautiful night and it was a great event, but she just had to, try and deconstruct it in her way. And she was they're always evaluating others. Another thing that Virgos do is they like to have secret nicknames for people that they give other people behind their back. So that's kind of how they are. And Virgos are backseat drivers as well. So if you're driving a car, they're always telling you, turn left here, go right here, you're going too fast, or you're going too slow now. Just shut the fuck up, Virgo, you're annoying as hell. A lot of them are very ridiculously over the top when it comes to germs, particularly with COVID. They'd probably have 2 masks on at one time. That would be a Virgo thing. They're basically a hermit. A lot of them just, they hate sweltering temperatures. A Virgo doesn't like really, really hot heat. They tend to get away from that. Now, Virgos tend to never shut the fuck up if they're really insecure. Much like when I think of a really sick and mentally unstable idiot Virgo, I think of the show that I used to watch back in my early 20s. Please don't hold that against me. I used to watch a show called The Hills, which was like an MTV show, centered about a group of rich, beautiful people living in LA in the hills. And there was this really weak bitch called Heidi Montag. She is the antithesis of a fucking weak Virgo. Now, Virgos that aren't special in themselves and haven't really developed what they do, much like the Cancerians, I'm looking at you here, don't take this the wrong way, but what they do, you see, the moon has no light of its own. It only bounces light off things around it and projects the light off others. So what the Virgo does, if they can't be the center of attention like a Leo will, what the Virgo will do is they position themselves around someone who has the light, and then they can get their needs met by default, by proxy. And that's exactly what she did, literally, because her now husband, Spencer Pratt, is a Leo. And he's a total narcissist and psychopath. So, it's a perfect match in heaven. So he gets to boss her around and control her, and she gets to share his light and bask in the light with him because she can't stand in her own light. That's part of the Virgo thing. But when I think of the Hermit card, I think of a man holding his own, the light side of a Hermit card is that he's holding his own torch. He doesn't need to be around other people's torch. That's the whole point, guys. And yet again, she'd had tons of surgery. She looked like a big blow-up doll. It was just terrible. And she was more beautiful without the surgery. She really didn't need it. She's so insecure. So if Virgos are out there, any type of modification, body modification to be their version of perfect, they're going for that. That's what they like to do. Now, lots of Virgos are writers. They are very good at writing. So they're very illiterate. So they're very good with like picking up on grammar, picking up on spelling mistakes. Think Stephen King. He's a Virgo. That's a perfect Virgo there. Now, Virgos are never satisfied, and I don't think they ever will be. They want 1,000,000, then I want 1,000,001. It's always just chasing the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. Much like the Sagittarian, they just are never happy. And their OCD kicks in a lot with the dark Virgo. They will like, you might come to their house, which will be perfect. They'll have to vacuum after you leave, maybe because of the, little minute microscopic little bits of dust that may have fallen on the ground. But Virgo will, they'll offer you a cup of coffee, and then they'll grab the cup of coffee and put the cup back in the cupboard before you've even finished drinking the coffee, because they've just got to rush you to get that coffee done and everything. They can't handle the coffee cup not being in the fucking, like I said, they're neurotic as hell. Like a dark Virgo is neurotic as hell. Now, if you're a Virgo and you're hating what I'm saying here, that would be completely normal. And if this is, because Virgos are very easily irritated by everything. Everything irritates them. They go to a restaurant, the food's too cold, the food's taking too long, always complaining, the music's too loud, like always complaining about everything. But I'm describing you guys to a T, and you know I am. And as well, you clicked on this video. So if you're watching this video and you're saying, oh, fuck him, fuck me, well, you clicked on the video in the first place. So, gotcha, Virgo. But most people around you walk on eggshells. They're scared of you. You don't rule through fear, like through love. You rule through fear. Like a dark Virgo thinks they're a great, reliable manager, but it's just a power play dynamic that they play. That's how they are. People don't feel that they can really trust you. So when a Virgo feels that they have no friends, this video has pointed out every reason why you don't have friends. And rather than sit and wallow and get angry at me, why don't you just work on your shadow side? Because that's a big part of why you need to, that's why I did this video for you. Think of this as I'm doing you a favor here, guys. But yeah, another thing with Virgos, they like to be, the concept of the Virgin Mary, which is like, Virgos are no fucking virgin, all right? So get over it. A lot of Virgos are strippers, or they've been in the sex industry, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the concept of a stripper is you can look at me, but you can't touch me. And that's one of the dark things that I've seen with the Virgo. Because Virgo goes through this period in between the Leo energy coming into Libra into Leo in between Libra. It's the death of summer and the start of a cooler kind of Halloween month. They have a darkness to them where they like to dress up in costume and play a character, who doesn't? But with the Virgo, they like to dress up, say a Virgo woman or a Virgo man will dress very provocatively, and they will go to a place where they know people are going to wolf whistle. They know people might even try and have a crack, approach them. And then so they'll wear really tight fitting clothes, very, very sluttily, very provocative. They're provocateurs. And in the moment that you come up to them and approach them or even look at them, oh my God, he's looking at me. Oh no, he's looking at me. Why are you looking at me? So it's like they like to project. They like the concept of projecting sexuality and fetishizing themselves to other people, but they hate the consequence of that projection. I hope that makes sense. So it's like a little teenage girl dressing up really slutty and then going somewhere and not understanding the message that she's trying to project, but then deflecting it and getting off the hook for trying to put that out. I hope that makes sense. And we all go through this stage. It's like that experimental stage, but Virgos seem to never really get over it. So yeah, they like to dress up in ways that get attention. And the moment that they get the attention, then they get mad at you giving them attention. It's like that. It's just it's pain in the ass stuff. It's such a pain in the ass. Virgos hate admitting that they've made mistakes. They'll come up with any excuse. Like the amount of crazy excuses that a Virgo will come up with is just ridiculous. Virgo fathers like to really implement their way of thinking onto their son, so they've got to really control the mind of the son. Yeah, and a Virgo does need a soft place to fall. Like Virgos love their home. I will give them that. So when they come home and no one's judging them, although it's okay for them to judge others, Virgo does really love their home. Now, Virgos can have way too many pets as well. Yet again, we talked about Virgo, the sign of service. They'll take in so many stray cats and so many stray dogs that they just, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, they just overruns their house. Like, crazy cat lady, like, that would be a crazy Virgo. Yeah, so that's another big one there. I think we're kind of getting through it all. I mean, the projection of the human Barbie doll is the dark side of a Virgo. Now, a good thing about Virgo, which I like and I really appreciate, is that these guys are professional. Virgo is a very professional sign. So if you, say for example, if you, I'll give a perfect example, if you're an actor and you're a Virgo on set, or even just any job where you've got to be around other people, if you've had a terrible fight with one of your co-stars, or you don't really like your co-star, or you're disagreeing with them. Sorry, just excuse me, I've got to have a glass of... trying to clear my throat. If you're a Virgo and you're having a fight with someone, and it's required for you to get along with them at work, you will. Virgos are pros. They are professionals. They show up on time and they do the work. That is one really good attribute of a light-sided Virgo. And Virgos don't like to just leave it to the last minute like Sag or Aries and just wing it. If you've got a lot of Virgo in your chart, it's highly probable that you will do the work, do the preparation for the meeting and show up and have like a, they like to be organized, and that's a really good thing. So even if it's like, if a Virgo had a relationship, I'll have some of this spray. If a Virgo had a relationship with someone and it broke up and it ended really badly, and a Virgo still had to go to the workplace and work with them, Virgo will show up and be professional. They'll just play the character. Even if they're playing a character with their ex-boyfriend that they hate, they'll kiss them in the scene and make it work, because they understand it's not about them, it's about the work. Virgo is of service. Leo, on the other hand, may not be able to do that because Leo can't separate. Virgo can do that. That's a great thing. I may end up doing videos talking about the light sides of the sign, but that is a great attribute, and I really respect that about a Virgo, actually. So they've got a lot of people booked in. If they're like a hair colorist or a stylist, because a lot of them work around hair and beauty, if they've got a person booked in, every time that someone comes through that door, Virgo will be, hello, how are you? How can I help you? Come through right this way, just a minute. They're very good on service. So that's a good thing. A dark-sided Virgo, you'd walk into their shop and they'd be like, what the hell do you want? What are you doing here? Like that attitude nonsense. So yeah, that's how they are. And Virgos are very judgmental. I know you are. I know, I get it. You guys like to serve as judge, jury, and executioner. And when I think of Virgo, I think of like Judge Judy or some shit like that. Now, a lot of dark Virgos, a very dark side of the Virgo, much like the Gemini, is that they can end up as counselors or psychologists. And this can be very bad, because what it really is them kind of inserting themselves over someone else and evaluating someone else as your superior, their inferior. And that's sick. It can get really dark like that. Now, if you're a Virgo, smile. Go practice smile in the mirror. Like, get comfortable with your teeth. A lot of Virgos don't have the best teeth genetically. But you can modify that. Visualize that shit. If you haven't already, you can, smile, be happy. And if you don't like if you don't like yourself that much, be comfortable with who you are. That's what I'm trying to say to you guys. Like, oh God, but get that smug look off your face. I used to know a Virgo, other than that bitch that I knew that came to that party that time, and she was just like, just putting me down, trying to put me down. Like, it didn't really work on me. It just irritated me, and I ended up telling her to fuck off at one point. Like I have, like a lot of the dark Virgos, like a lot of the dark signs, I just fuck them off. I just can't be bothered with it, But yeah, that's how they are. It's always someone else's fault. It's never their fault. And when they get into that intellectual, superiority complex, by the way, Virgos have a superiority complex and an inferiority complex about it. Think about that. Put that, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. That is a Virgo right there. They often come across like they're the chosen one. They've got to educate us, kind of thing. Like a camera looking down on a room and looking down at people, like, and evaluating people. But underneath it, you're just like a bag of nerves. A dark Virgo is like a little snappy chihuahua, like a little dog. Like, just shut the fuck up. You're so annoying. And that's why you're just like vicious, and just chill and get over your paranoia and your self-hate. That's a big thing that Virgos have to get over it. Get over your own sense of self-hate and just learn to love yourself. I can't say that enough. I mean, that's really how I really see it. The perfect embodiment of a Virgo would be the Kardashians, and would be Kim Kardashian. You know, if you look at her, she's just tried to, you can't even recognize her from the photos that she was before to where she was to where she is now. And because Virgos want perfection, and they use capitalism to do that. So it's got to be a big house, big swimming pool. I could fit your whole house in my pool kind of thing. Virgos love that. The gated community, the beautiful, beautiful everything. Everything's got to be organized and perfect and modern. It's just cold. It feels cold. And it's just, yet again, it's another power play. It's another thing of living rich and breathing rich. A Virgo person living in a third world country would easily exploit someone else to try and get a green card or come to a better country where they can have a better life. A lot of Virgos are very spoiled and entitled, so they've got this kind of attitude where people have to show up and take care of them. That's another thing. A lot of Virgos are on fangirls. Fangirls would be full of Virgos, or fans only. I mean, fans only would be great for Virgos, because then they can show themselves, get adulation, get attention, get the dopamine hit, and get paid for it at the same time. That's a big one. A lot of Virgos have daddy issues, so they'll chase after the man that their father never was and try and recreate that dynamic. That's another big Virgo thing as well. It's just sitting back and, Virgos don't really want to do, a really dark Virgo doesn't want to run in the race. They just want to hang out at the finish line and just pick the winner, or they'll just piggyback off someone else's hard work. But they love, like in a Virgo's, in a general speaking Virgo, like it's got to ooze sports car, it's got to ooze Rolex, it's got to have the big house, and they'll go after the football players. So if you're a football player and you're caught up, football players would need to probably take the condom with them after they leave. Let's just put it that way. Virgos can be incredibly big on social climbing, and a lot of Virgo people tend to acquire a lot of their worth through their former partners or former husbands, and getting all that money out of their divorces, so they can be ruthless in divorce as well. Money makes Virgo feel safe, much like Taurus, all the other earth signs, but Capricorn have all got to have the money to feel safe. Virgo has no talent for poverty. These guys are not interested in living a shitty life. They want the best. They want to live in a beautiful, perfect house and stand in front of a beautiful mirror and just look at themselves and just wallow in their own sense of self-perfection. That's why a lot of the gay Virgos are very big on the gym, the weights, eating a chicken a day, keeping the protein up. They've got to keep that protein, got to keep that lean body, always taking pictures of themselves, just having the perfect teeth, hair, teeth bleach, anything they can to look perfect, and live a fairy tale life that they're trying to push onto other people. That's just what Virgos do. They try to deflect anything off their own insecurities and try and find faults with everyone else so they don't have to deal with their insecurity. But a lot of it's just, it is what it is. They're just obsessed with their own sense of self-concept. That's what a Virgo is. These guys can be stalkers as well. They can even stalk more than a Cancerian can. And Cancerians are stalkers. They are stage 5 clingers. Now, Virgos don't like clingy people. A Virgo can be clingy to you, but a Virgo doesn't like someone encroaching on their space or their home. Or they're blowing up their phone, blowing up their DMs. They hate that. Virgos will tell you to fuck off. Virgos are also big on cancel culture as well. So it's just another way for them to deconstruct someone else, gain social capital, or acquire their social capital. That's another thing that Virgos like to do. They're big on, telling someone else off. And some really dark, sick, fucked up female feminists come from Virgo as well. Oh my God, I think I've covered so much content, so much of what my knowledge from my heart and my mind about the dark side of a Virgo. I know this video has been a lot. What I would suggest is come back and rewatch it when you're in a better state of mind. If you don't have the time for the videos that I'm doing, they can tend to be quite long. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. And I'm not going to break it down in little bite sizes for you because you're busy. If you find these videos interesting and enthralling and engaging, and I'm telling something that's really hitting a chord with you, then you will make the time to sit down and just listen to what I have to say and take it as it is. Don't tell me to make shorter videos, because I'm not going to, guys. These videos go as long as they need to go. Some might be long, some might be shorter, but I'm trying to encapsulate the essence of what I'm talking about in that regard, and I feel that I am doing that. So there you go. That is the dark side of the Virgo, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you are a Virgo, please try to be more optimistic about life, and I'm sending you lots of love, lots of positive energy, and I will see you in the next video when we talk about the dark side of the Capricorn. And I think I'm going to have to switch to the Scotch for that one. Thank you so much. I will see you guys in the next video. It has been an absolute pleasure to hold space with you today. This was Virgo the Dark Side. Bye. Bye.